The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are designed to outlast and outlive, combining raw power with precision engineering, all backed by Toyota's legendary reputation for reliability. Climb inside a Tundra and experience the uncompromising strength. With its available iForce Max engine, the Tundra delivers exceptional power, torque, and towing capacity. Plus, the spacious and high-tech cabin keeps you connected on the run. Or check out a Tacoma. Agile, dependable, and unstoppable. The Tacoma's designed for those who go beyond the trails. Stay ahead of the pack with available off-road features like crawl control. Or break out your tunes with the available portable JBL speaker. Toyota trucks are built to last, year after year, mile after mile. So outlast every adventure and outlive the moment. Buy a Tundra or Tacoma today. Visit buyatoyota.com, the official website for deals. Or stop by your local Toyota dealer to find out more. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, Charm City, it's time to warm up the season with a cozy getaway to Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Here you'll find everything you need for the perfect escape, from the excitement of Arundel Mills and live casino to the vibrant dining scene of downtown Annapolis. With great shops, delicious seafood, and more, it's the place to see this winter. Stay in the comfort with over 12,000 hotel rooms. It's all waiting for you in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Plan your winter getaway today at visitannapolis.org. And remember, in Maryland, you are welcome.
You're rocking with the most awesomest.
The Carl Nelson Show.
You're rocking with the most awesomest. All right, let's go. Keep rocking. Keep rocking.
And Grand Rising family, and happy King Day. Thanks for starting your week with us again. Later, Contra Costa College professor Manu Ampin will check into our classroom. Professor Ampin who completed his thesis on Dr. King, will discuss the revolutionary aspects of Dr. King. But before we hear from Professor Ampin, Garveyite Sengar Baye will shed light on President Biden's historic pardon granted to Marcus Garvey. But to get us started on his King Day 2025, Baltimore activist Haki Ammi is here. Grand Rising, Brother Haki, welcome back to the program.
Greetings and grand rising to you, my brother Carl Nelson. It's an honor to be joining you to lead off this power-packed edition with my brother Sengar Baye and Baba Manu Ampin. So it's just an honor. He was a brother Ampin, spent some time in Baltimore, so so we appreciate you having him and bringing him back here to this listening audience, and for your work throughout the years, enlightening us and enlightening and empowering the Baltimore and D.C. audience. We owe a gratitude to you for your time and energy and work in doing so.
All right. Thanks for the kind words. Professor Ampin, I think we're in Morgan State as well, but he's going to talk about Dr. King, King Day 2025, correct. Brother Haki. So I know that the King Day Parade in Baltimore has been postponed or canceled. And I think the one in D.C. is still going on. Can you shed some light on these parades today in both areas?
Well, so what the D.C. parade, of course, so the Baltimore has been canceled, but what everyone is doing for the D.C. area is basically meeting at Metropolitan AME. Now, many know Frederick Douglass spoke at that church early on, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, at Rosa Parks. I think did they bring a body there or something? I just heard someone mention something to that effect. But Metropolitan AME is where they're not doing the march and rally part, but they're going to meet there. I believe that's going to be at 10 a.m. because the rally part was supposed to be at 10, so they're just going to move everything. They're just going to move everything over. They're just going to move everything over to Metropolitan AME this morning. So, so that's a good opportunity for those, in the Baltimore and D.C. area. But if for those that are not going, but there is some buses, I must mention Baltimore Community Chapter, man, bus will. I mean, I don't know if they're going to leave at 7, but they're going to meet. It's called the Bridge to Nowhere in Baltimore, and there are some other buses that other groups are having. At Shiloh, whatever one is closer to you to get there to this historic event. But I wanted to mention, just in case if anyone is not up to going to DC, Reginald F. Lewis Museum is having something, and I know Senator Joe Carter will be there for that. So just want to, it's time for us to come together by any means necessary to, just learn what's going on in this society and listen to different voices, be open and receptive to learn our history and our culture so that we can empower ourselves. True.
So true. Brother Haki, you've been very active in the Baltimore, D.C. area.
Right.
What are some things that are going on in Baltimore and the DMV? And also, you're also a board member of the Black Caucus Foundation in Maryland. Right. What's some of the Maryland Black Caucus priorities that they've set out for this year?
Certainly, and I think it's essential. I'm sort of becoming like a bridge call, for both Baltimore as well as the state of Maryland in my position here. But, just having the background that I did, for years, I was elected what's called a Central Committee in the city of Baltimore, local Democratic State Central Committee. And so I learned a lot, in terms of, the political processes and, just really who the people are, how things are done, I'd say how the game is played on some levels. But, I certainly extended those experiences, and I was, I would say, justly rewarded. My senator and Senator Shirley Nathan Pulliam, when she was my senator in District 44A, I was in 44A, she nominated me to be on what's called the Maryland Black Caucus Foundation. Now, many people, and Carl, you've broadcast live from the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. I know others have broadcast. I've seen Reverend Al, you, and then Reverend Al. Many know about the Congressional, but there's also the Maryland Black Caucus Foundation. Now, we're not necessarily too involved in policy, but I certainly am in Annapolis at different times of the year, supporting many different initiatives. And, I testified a few times, but, I'm not, sometimes since I'm, have to be, very diplomatic, I know I have to, just sort of just learn and listen and just get a good, well-rounded education on what goes on. And so I certainly was there for the opening day session, and then one of the other newspapers had like a town hall forum in Annapolis as well. So spending some time just learning and listening and, knowing what my actual power is, what organizational support we actually have, and how laws are changed, and how advocacy works, and how who people listen to, who people respect, and how much power we do actuate. And so, but, several key things. And, the Maryland, of course, the Black Caucus is one of the largest caucuses. Now, there may have been some changes. So we somehow, our numbers are 60. I just saw news because sometimes I don't recall the updated numbers because things change with how many members of the Black Caucus there actually is. But, 60 members there. And but some of the key things that and I would encourage everybody to look at the Black Caucus website to get some of the actual bills. But some of the major highlights was what's called the YES Act, Youth Equity and Safety Act. And this was interesting. This was put together by Senator Joe P. Carter last year. I mean, many interesting people. I'm sorry, not last year, but that was a reparations thing. But many individuals have worked on this, including the public defender office. Have worked on issues surrounding and creating adults, labeling children as adults in almost every case in every scenario. And so we have to get down to the bottom of that. And Maryland incident incarcerates more than black youth than Mississippi. I just heard Senator Carter say that recently. And so that stood out. There's also, talking about prescription drugs. And, and it's in the call because I recall like maybe a month ago when you had that gentleman on with the app that does something to the effect where it stops when you're driving, but there's a bill dealing with that would downgrade the number of primary violations that allow for police to pull over motorists. And so I know you had someone, because I recall calling in because I went to the public defender's discussion where Dr. Tyrone Powers was speaking about, motorists being pulled over. So those are some of the things. And a commission to study reparations, Delegate Alethea McCaskill and, my delegate, Brother Malcolm Ruff, soon to be Senator Ruff. He has put in his name to be the next senator, taking Jill Carter's spot in Baltimore. So we're looking forward to watching all these. And in 2024, Senator Carter passed a bill. I'm sorry, she submitted a reparations bill that did not pass. So, and I got that from some different reports. And so the chair of the Black Caucus, Sister Janelle Wilkins, has stated that this reparations issue is an issue that Black Marylanders are talking about in town hall. So sometimes, we think that people aren't listening to the grassroots individuals, but many times, if you make enough noise, people will start listening, and they know they have to address your issues.
Let me ask you this, though, before we get deeper into the issues. Do you ever see the day when the area from Baltimore, straight line from Baltimore to Washington, D.C. to the DMV becomes one contiguous area, kind of like a metroplex like Dallas? Got Fort Worth, Arlington, and some other cities around there, and just one huge metropolitan area. Do you think that'll ever happen in your lifetime?
Well, interesting that you mentioned that there is a tentative train, if you will. So it's called MagLab. I'm not sure if everybody knows about it. It stands for magnetic levitation, and actually there is. It possibly could be 10, 20 years. I'm not sure of the timeline and approval. The approval process of how or when that actually will manifest, but tentatively it could be a thing where you could get to New York, I think something in like 30, 40 minutes, and something about DC in 10 to 15. So, that's, an interesting concept that certainly would, totally expand Baltimore, because right now many individuals do still live. Many people work in Baltimore for affordable housing, but they work in D.C. because of the government jobs and the contractors, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I know, one of the key issues has been the red line, which could possibly connect some of those that commute to D.C. out to some of the, West Baltimore County areas. And so those are the things that people are looking at, but definitely people should look into the MagLab initiative. But what I will say, and I know Reverend Dr. Kobe Little, he actually went to Japan a few months ago to get a good understanding of how that worked, and a few others, Paris Brown, Adrian Harpool, a few others went to Japan to take a stronger look at that, and how it will affect the black communities that these are.
Hold that thought right there, Brother Haki. We got to take a short break. I'll let you finish your thought on that. And also when we come back, I know you were a vowed Democrat, and most of the elected officials in Baltimore, black officials, and not just Baltimore, but all over, behind the Democratic Party. Now that Biden's on his way out in another few hours, if you reflect back, and can you name anything that he's done that you would think that's sort of positive or progressive? I'll let you answer those questions when we get back from the short break at 14 after the top of the hour. Family, you too could join our conversation with Brother Haki. Reach out to us at 800-450-7876. We'll take your phone calls in 4 minutes right here in Baltimore on 1010 WLB. Or if you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power.
The Toyota Tundra and Tacoma are designed to outlast and outlive, backed by Toyota's legendary reputation for reliability. So get in a Tundra with the available iForce Max hybrid engine, delivering exceptional torque and towing capacity. Or check out a Tacoma. With available off-road features like crawl control, it can take you beyond the trails. Toyota trucks are built to last. So don't wait. Get yours today. Visit buyatoyota.com for deals and more. Toyota, let's go places.
Hey, Charm City, it's time to warm up the season with a cozy getaway to Annapolis and Anne Arundel County, Maryland. Here you'll find everything you need for the perfect escape, from the excitement of Arundel Mills and live casino to the vibrant dining scene of downtown Annapolis. With great shops, delicious seafood, and more, it's the place to see this winter. Stay in the comfort with over 12,000 hotel rooms. It's all waiting for you in Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. Plan your winter getaway today at visitannapolis.org. And remember, in Maryland, you are welcome.
Grand Rising, family, and happy King Day 2025. I guess it's Brother Haki. Brother Haki's an activist out of Baltimore. And Brother Haki, I'll let you finish your thought. Then tell us, because you're involved in politics quite a bit with the Black Caucus Foundation in Maryland, your thoughts on Joe Biden's outgoing today. The next few hours, he'll only be the president for the next few hours. If you can think of anything positive that he's done, and if you can update us, do you know if he's pardoned Marilyn Mosby yet?
No. The short answer, unfortunately, our dear sister Marilyn Mosby, who will have a birthday in 2 more days, unfortunately was not amongst that recent list with the Garvey. That would have been powerful. And Sister Kimber Smith, I don't understand, who's and what's the powers that be that is causing President Biden to not pardon Marilyn Mosby. So it is a painful, dual position that I share if I have, anything that I can say that was good. And that's, it's unfortunate, and as I mentioned, as you alluded, and about the commutations, and of course, Senghor Baye Garvey, ninth successor to Garvey, will share about that. But what I will say, for me and my organization, of course, I'm the president of the Teaching Artists Institute, but I'll know that I've heard even with Dwight Pettit, and it's great you always have him on, great, brilliant lawyer mind, and he and several others have spoke about the federal judges. I believe it's 235, something around there, and 63 black judges, 40 of them are women. Black women, shall I say. So that, some people, that certainly can resonate with many that understand the role, and I'm sure, and Marilyn Mosby has spoke about this in terms of advocacy and not just paying attention to the city, who's running for city and county, but some of these local judgeships, but the federal judgeships are important, as we see in her case. But, interesting, about President Biden and his only trip to Africa was last month, and that was to Angola. And I wasn't, as up and abreast on that as I perhaps should have been, perhaps because I, generally may not be looking at the, liberators of Angola, but I appreciate, Angola's fight for liberation. But I will say, and I'll kind of go back to, in terms of what my particular interests are, because I'm not just a domestic considering brother. I, believe in, our global African presence, if I may quote Baba Dr. Harunoka Rashidi. And so, but Vice President Kamala Harris, she visited Ghana, Tanzania, and Zambia. But interesting, 2022, President Biden did have a U.S. Africa summit. It was in D.C., and I was, Carl, I was encouraging people to attend, and and this is what I feel like that I bring to the struggle for the movement, a unique level of sacrifice that somebody has to show up, someone has to be present in particular spaces. Now, President Biden. There was, outside of President Obama, the last time many African leaders, African presidents, shall I say, came was under President Obama. So this was the U.S. Africa Summit, and I told people, look, it's not about trying to get up and get close to the presidents, if you will, but I'll just give an example. Sometimes when you have diplomats that come, from Africa, such as, sometimes they have delegations with them, and they will have, for instance, a young Kwame Nkrumah. They will have a Thomas Sankara, if you will. So they will have, some other leaders, young Julius Nyerere with them that we have to connect to. And so we hear, and when I see, because generally they would have a delegation, and certainly for us in the DMV, it should be strategic interest for us to be present on some capacity. And I know Brother Melvin Foote in the D.C. area certainly, was front and center many times. I saw him over that period of time. But we really created some strong networks with the Teaching Artists Institute, and we were, became very essential to some of the operations that happened during that time, creating a global presence and a global network of young leaders, shall I say. So that's what I'll say, because, ultimately, for me and for us, we have to leverage, the people who are in various positions of influence and power. But ultimately, it's about building our own power. And this is called, I'm not, building our own economic basis, studying global trade and commerce. Those are essential things that we have to understand if we are to survive as a community and as a people. I am certain of that.
Well, at 30 minutes after the top there, let's go back to the national, the Teaching Arts Institute, I should say. You are having some tours around Ghana and Tanzania coming up. Right. Can you tell us about those tours?
Yeah, thank you, Brother Carl, and appreciate that question. So I didn't go to Africa, before 2020, and it's interesting that we're having this conversation on the day of the election of 47. But in 2020, during that time, there were many people seeking, answers or considerations for travel, for experience in Africa and to possibly relocate, repatriate. And so, I went to Tanzania during that time. It was COVID, and President Magufuli was the only, I believe, perhaps one more country, but definitely Tanzania was the only country that were allowing for people to travel. So there was sort of like a floodgate. And Teaching Artists Institute, we took a delegation, probably about 8 to 10 at that time, but that sort of ballooned and magnified, and many people were open to Tanzania. And since our timing was like perfect, because it was probably like we had this on the agenda actually to explore East Africa and Tanzania particularly, but COVID came, and President Trump, and I just thought that somebody had to explore, and so I personally went there, and so that was a good experience, and so we are certainly continuing that initiative with tentatively a tour in October with our Elders Legacy Tour. Mama Ade out of Cleveland, she will be heading up that, the curator, but I anticipate being present for that because I have been just sort of galvanizing some things in Maryland. But interesting, and this is what my experience has been just talking to people over the years, Carl. Most Black people here, for instance, generally aware, and they may not be as aware of Tanzania in terms of going. So I've been saying for the past 2 years, year and a half, like, okay, we needed to, center ourselves with individuals that want to go to Ghana right now. And so we've been blessed to get some connections and, some actual contracts with some groups to actually go. And one of those was a dance group, a sister dance professor here, and she took she's a excellent dancer, like top of the line, but she, specializes in African dance. And she took Dr. Deirdre Williams, but she took a group there last month in December. And they were Johns Hopkins Peabody students. And now, coming up in a few more months, we will have some other students, some Baltimore City students, but we're working out the details on that. And so, and that leads us to, the Ghana Independence Day that's coming up.
Well, hold that thought right there. We got to take a short break. And you come back and you tell us about Ghana Independence Day. And folks, if you're thinking about traveling to Africa, listen up, because Brother Haki is going to detail all of that for you. Because I know a lot of people thinking about moving to Ghana. Some people became Ghanaian citizens as well, thinking about it. Oh, we got a lot of listeners in Ghana. And a shout out to them who are listening to us this early afternoon out there in Ghana. 800-450-7876. So if you want to speak to Brother Haki right here in Baltimore, and we'll take your calls in 4 minutes on 1010 WOLB, or if you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. And Grand Rising family, thanks for rolling with us on this Monday morning, King Day 2025. Happy King Day, by the way, at 21 minutes away from the top of the hour with our guest, Brother Haki. Brother Haki is an activist out of Baltimore. You've heard him here several times before. Before we go back to him, let me just remind you, coming up later this morning, we're going to speak with Professor Manu Ampim. Professor Ampim is going to talk about Marcus Garvey, and he's going to talk about Dr. King. In fact, he completed his thesis on Dr. King. He's going to discuss the revolutionary side of Dr. King. But before we hear from Professor Ampim, Garveyite, Brother Sengo Baye is going to talk about President Biden's historic pardon to Marcus Garvey and what that's all about. And we'll find out what the Garveyites think about that. And later this week, you're going to be joined by a stockbroker, J.R. Fenwick, Flip That Stock. He wants to get more Black folks involved in the stock market. He says it's really, really easy, and the stock market's going gangbusters right now. Also, chematologist, Brother Tony Browder will be here. And also, Black Lives Grassroots co-founder, Dr. Melina Abdullah, will join us. So if you are in Baltimore, make sure your radio's locked in tight on 1010 WOLB, or if you're in the DMV, we're on FM 95.9 and AM 1450 WOL, where information is power. All right, Brother Haki, I'm going to let you finish your thought.
Yes, thank you. And certainly so. Coming up, and interesting, this is Dr. King's Day. And in 1957, Ghana claimed its independence, politically flag independence, and certainly it was a good step. And if I recall, Dr. King was present. I believe Coretta Scott King was there too, but I recall that he was, very touched by the ceremony, and he was inspired to come back to Africa. I'm sorry, to the U.S. and believe that Black freedom was possible here. But instant. So on March the 6th is the official Independence Day, but we're doing an event at the Sankofa Children's Museum in Baltimore. So that's going to be March the 8th, 1 to 5 p.m. And I'll give out my, information, on that. But definitely mark that date down, if I may say. We need support. We need support, sponsors, attendees, donations, whatever you want like to give your time, promote it, however. So we're excited about that. But Carl, in this instant, I wanted to just plug. We also coming up next month. We have a partnership with the Banneker Douglas Tubman Museum, and I'm excited about this. For the past 2 years, we did with the Freedom Rides actually, and we certainly have. This time we're going to put our little African spin on it. But of course, we're going to talk about the civil rights movement. We're going to just go in a different direction. And more so take the bus down to the Gullah Islands, St. Helena, and, Savannah, Georgia, and stop at the museum in Charleston, South Carolina. So we're going to put another spin on it. But we've done that for 2 years before. We had to stop. We had to pause because of the hurricane last year. We couldn't make that, but that's a really exciting thing that we've done, and I'm excited that we're partnered with the Banneker Douglas Tubman Museum this year. And they actually tonight they'll be doing a wreath laying for Dr. King, and in Annapolis, and so I'll be there for that this evening in Annapolis. So yes, brother. So got my hands full, with a few things, but we have some strategic operations brewing.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to go back to your political role, because one of the things that the Democrats or the Black Caucus in Maryland discussing is reparations.
Right.
Where is that? Is that on the back burner, front burner for Black lawmakers in Maryland?
No, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. And so. Delegate Alethea McCaskill, she's partially in Baltimore County, but and my delegate Malcolm Ruff, some strong advocates for that, and so they put it to the table, and this is where, and even with HR 40, and shout out to Mama Nkechi Taifa in D.C., who is a true advocate for reparations. And, just like President Biden didn't, put forward H.R. 40. I mean, we just have to truly understand our power. Although there are 60 members of the Black Caucus, there is a Black Republican that won in Maryland. I don't know if she's going to be 61 or what she's doing, but anyway, so.
Is she part of the Black Legislative Black Caucus?
She just got in there, Carl, like
okay.
A week or two ago. So, so that's gonna be it. But so we.
But do you think she'll be welcome though? Let's in all seriousness, do you think she'll be welcome just because she's a Republican?
I would say it depends on what kind. Like, Carl, I think. Because, sometimes, in Maryland, individuals may not, and it depends upon the issue, I would say, because not everybody is like lockstep with, shall I say, this is like a total Black thing, or this is a Democratic thing. Sometimes there are thin lines, and, sometimes members of the Black Caucus don't agree on certain issues. There are some, for instance, that aren't as
well, let me jump in and ask you: are they black first, or are they Republican first, or Democrat first, or Muslim first, or Christian first? What are they?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. And honestly, I would say it depends. And I'm just giving my experience and an estimate. You may not have a Charles Byrne that's gonna go scorched earth and saying that respectfully to the extent that just like if it's not totally black, just if this so sometimes individuals are having different levels of compromising on particular, you wash my hand, I wash yours, because people are thinking, there are different issues. There are Baltimore Senate issues. There are Prince George's County Senate issues. There are, Democratic caucus related issues. So, and people have their own interests for their districts that they are if you want to say competing. They're trying to, raise their profile for their district as well. So sometimes, and I think this is what the role of and I don't, of course they do a great job, I assume, but managing 60 personalities could be, quite, that's extraordinary task. So one has to have a level of diplomacy. So I say sometimes things depend upon the issue. But speaking on the reparations, my brother, and but yes, they did put forward, that, and I'm excited that they did put that forth. But I wanted to be able to mention that, but on behalf of the Teaching Artists Institute, our sister Kim Poole was recently, here's the story, she's in Rome at the Vatican, and she was discussing reparations. And let me just very, very quickly, this discussion was built on the foundation laid by Global Circle for Reparations and Healing, which on July 18, 2022, initiated a formal dialogue with the Vatican. During that meeting, a delegate led by Cam Howard, Director of Reparations United, delivered the reparations presentment to the Holy See, a comprehensive assessment of the church historic involvement in a transatlantic slave trade, the continued harmful impact of those actions, and the concrete reparative measures to redress the offenses and colossal harms that have resulted. So shout out to Kim Houghton and it says Howard sees Tide's effort as partnering with the Global Circle demand, and as such will play a pivotal role in continued advocacy and enforcement of faith-based reparations initiatives. And so keeping that going, and that's, I just give a shout out to my executive director, Sister Kim, for, taking the time meeting with the Catholic Church, who historically had us a very the key role in pushing the transatlantic slave trade.
All right, hold that thought there. Sister Sheena's joining us at 12 away from the top of the hour. She's on line 2. Grand Rising, Happy King Day. Sister Sheena, you're on with Brother Haki.
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Happy King Day to you all. Of course, I love you all and the team, Brother Cole Nelson. But I wanted to ask Brother Haki, because we're on the team with Marilyn Mosby. Do you think, because I received a call yesterday from a brother, and he was like, this is why I left the Democratic Party. Here, you guys have galvanized over 100,000, and you know the stats, so I don't want to take up a lot of time. But Marilyn Mosby has exemplified exactly what we're talking about for Dr. King. And you all still don't have a pardon? The Democratic Party is missing that these young people can galvanize and get this party back on track. So what's your take on that? I mean, those who have his ear.
Let me throw this in here too, Sister Sheena. So far, he's still got a few more hours, but so far he still didn't give Jesse Jackson's son, a pardon either.
Does. And I'm not saying that he won't, Brother Call. I'm just saying, responding to the call that I received, because I received so many calls yesterday. So I just wanted to ask Brother Haki his take on that, because that it made me even think.
Well, so what I'll say, and this is just my, I'm black first all the time, and what we have to, just understand, it's just a power, lack of power. I believe one of the presidents, and if I recall it, on Dr. King Day, he said something to the effect, "Make me do it." I believe they may have been talking about the Civil Rights Act. And, ultimately, there are particular leaders, certainly within the Democratic, spaces who, the CBC sent a letter. Now, I don't, now things could be taken to different levels. People could protest outside of the White House. So I'm not saying that, whether the Democratic Party, but as a whole, if you're just saying all the Democrats, because you've got a lot of different competing interests. And Dr. Taylor is good with, he's the best at this understanding. So, they don't just kowtow to what black people want. And, what happened to Kamala Harris should allude that. But in Maryland, yes, certainly I think, and I'm starting to realize my power, although I'm not an elected official, so I don't speak for the Democratic Party, et cetera, et cetera. But the question becomes, well, this is the team that we have, 60 members, there aren't any Republicans or there aren't any Green Party, there aren't any black parties that, that are advocating. So where do we have to go? And so certainly, I understand, what you're saying. The question becomes of, how do we advocate? Because ultimately people are concerned, these black elected officials, they're concerned about, what's in front of them, every day. And it may not necessarily be social justice issues all the time. I just, I'm just being honest. They got other things going on. They thinking about reelection, and raising money. So, I'm just being, objectively honest with that, Sister Shana.
Well, we'll stay positive, like Brother Carl said. He still does have a couple more hours, but I really think that Marilyn Mosby deserves to be pardoned. So I think we should continue to stay with her to the finish line, because she deserves this. No other person is more deserving, in my opinion, than her, and her children. This is a message that we're sending to children, that we would do your mother wrong, and it's nothing that you can do about it. So I'm praying for, and we're going to stay positive. So thank you for taking my call. And
let's reach out to our sister on her birthday 2 days from now, and I appreciate you, Shana.
We're not going to leave her. We're going to still be with her beyond this, but at the end of the day, I'm hoping that we will want our president to pardon her.
Thank you for mentioning. I'm sure a lot of people are listening today in the Baltimore and D.C. area. So, this is people are off work, so they got the message. So we gotta keep pushing. And thank you. Hopefully you'll be in D.C. Today, but many blessings to you. Appreciate you. And that's Sister Marilyn Mosby. She went on the Freedom Rides with us with Teaching Artists Institute not last year, 2 years ago. Took both of her daughters. Presented in Atlanta. We watched the film 13th with the young people, so her heart is with the youth. So, I always stand with my sister. So, ain't no question, where I stand. And I know
I think we all should stand with her. But we got to take a short break. And Sister Sheena, thank you for calling. Thank you for, noting that we still got a few more hours. And so people can still call and the White House if they're so inclined. We'll see what happens in the next few hours. Anyway, as I mentioned, we're going to step aside for a few minutes. We'll be back we're going to be back in 4 minutes with Brother Haki right here in Baltimore on 1010 WOLB and also in the DMV on FM 95.9 and AM 1450. WOL, where information is power.
Keep rocking.
Happy King Day 2025. Momentarily, we're going to speak with Brother Sengo Baye, talking about Marcus Garvey. But let's finish up with Brother Haki. Brother Haki, Theodore's calling us from Parkville in Maryland. Theodore, your question for Brother Haki. Can you make it quick for us?
I appreciate all his information from traveling. And I like to say, first of all, in reference to categories, first, we are human beings, like Malcolm X said. We happen to be black Americans, and we may be Democrat, and hopefully not Republican. And in reference to what he was saying about reparations, I think it is necessary. I don't think, based on the population in this country, that it will be done. But it's and I'd like to ask the brother, did he realize years ago, many people don't know about this, there is a section in the State Department, and I think it's still funded at the rate of around $500 million for Israel. It's funded. It's a section of the State Department. You can research it. Many people don't know about it. $500 million slush fund for the state of Israel. And one of the things in the Bible says, it's not what you say, it's what you do. I don't think those are the right words, but that's the general gist of, I believe, the gospel that Jesus preached. And based on all their doings, when they tell me that my history is worthless, that I come from countries that don't make a difference, when they take books out of schools that tell the truth, that tells you everything you need to know. And I would say to everybody who's listening, if you pray, because after the criminal, illegal aliens are removed, and other immigrants, who do you think they're coming after? And Nancy Pelosi said it basically. He said he's not make America great again. It's make America white again. And when you look at what this thing in the schools, they don't want to indoctrinate kids with history. Now, that's a funny thing. I'm 75. They indoctrinated me all my growing years in school with lies about those nasty pieces of work like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and those so-called founding fathers. So it just seems that many of them, they don't like the truth. And can you tell me, if you are a Christian and you're supposed to be speaking the truth, why you would lie about other people using the guise of your religion, your belief, as a basis for what you do? And I always tell people this: when you look at those pictures that you can see on documentaries about people being lynched and the white crowd out there with their children pointing up to it, these are their grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. So how far do you think the apple falls from the tree? So
right. Let's Brother Theodore, let's give Brother Haki a chance to respond. Thank you for your comments and your questions. Thank you, sir. Brother Haki?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the brother. Well, I'm I'm not surprised about what he said about the slush fund. So, but I'll definitely look more into that. But I appreciate his comments on Malcolm X, and it's interesting. And to Sister Sheena's point, and we just have to understand our power. And sometimes, I don't want to hold myself and think that I'm held just here to the restraints of